Hey guys, what is up? My name is Lannon, and welcome to the Jersey Zone. So with tomorrow being the start of the regular season, I'm doing my last division predictions. If you guys want to see my other division predictions, I'll leave them in the description down below. But like I said in those videos, these videos are just for fun. I'm just predicting. I don't think I know everything about every single team. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be very wrong about every single prediction that I make. So if you guys disagree with me, that's 100% okay. But anyways, let's get into the video here. So starting off in last place in this division, at number 8, I'm going to be having the San Jose Sharks. Now, there's a few reasons why I'm going to have the Sharks in this place, and these reasons could also be the reason why they kind of bump up a little bit in the standings as well. The first reason being Erik Karlsson. Is he healthy? That is the main question. If he is healthy, if this long offseason helped him out, which it definitely could and it's definitely possible, if he's going into the season healthy, that's going to be really, really important for the Sharks, because I still think if Erik Karlsson can still play his game, he's an extremely good defenseman. He's just been injured the last few years, and that's kind of why I think he's had down years. But like I said, if he's healthy, that'll be extremely important for them. And the second reason is goaltending. I'm just a little confused on why the San Jose Sharks went in the direction they did with their goaltending. Last year with Jones and Dell was the better goaltender, so I kind of thought that he would either stay and they would maybe try and push him into the starter or at least play him a little bit more than Jones. But they decided to keep Jones and go with Dubnyk as the secondary goaltender, which is weird because Dubnyk didn't have a great year in Minnesota, so it's just kind of a weird kind of situation that the Sharks put themselves in. I just really don't know if I agree with that goaltending choice, so it's going to be an interesting one. We'll see if they can both have bounce-back seasons. If they can, then also, like I said, that will help them in kind of recovering and kind of boosting up the standings a little bit. And then there is also that story that came out yesterday with Evander Kane. I'm not going to touch on it too much, but basically there is kind of rumors that he might terminate his contract. If that is the case, then the Sharks will definitely plummet down the standings. I personally feel like they really, really need him. So if he does not play this season and he terminates his contract, that's going to be really bad for the Sharks, so we'll have to see what kind of happens there. But for me, that's why I have the Sharks at 8th place. And then at 7th place, I'm going to be having the Anaheim Ducks. Now, with the Ducks, I don't really see a lot that's going to be coming out of them. Honestly, the only reason that I have them ahead of the Sharks is really their goaltending. I like the Gibson-Miller tandem a lot more than I like the Jones-Dubnyk tandem. So that's kind of like my main reason why I basically have the Anaheim Ducks ahead of the Sharks. But really, other than that, I just don't really see a lot out of the Ducks. They do have some young players coming up, so if those players can play well, maybe that'll help them out a little bit. But other than that, I don't really see a lot coming out of the Ducks, so that's why I have them in 7th place. And then at number 6, I have the Arizona Coyotes, and this kind of hurts me, to be honest with you. I've really been rooting for the Arizona Coyotes for the past few years. I've really wanted them to get into the playoffs and actually do well, and it just really hasn't worked out for the past few years, except for last year where they actually did beat the Nashville Predators, and then they got smoked by Colorado. So even though they did make the playoffs, it was in a different year, and when they made the playoffs, they got smoked. So either way, with Arizona, I like their goaltending a lot. Their goaltending and the defense, I really have no issue with. That part of their game is really, really strong. They're usually pretty good on the defense. It's really not that goaltending or defense. It's that forward depth or that just forward group. I'm not really too sure if it's just the coaching and that's kind of why they really can't seem to score, or if it's just that forward group itself and it just can't seem to score. I really, really like Phil Kessel. He's one of my favorite players, but he had a really bad year with Arizona. I don't know if that's just because he doesn't really have anyone to complement him. I really don't think he is that main star player. I don't really think Kessel is that main guy that you want to go to. He's definitely a secondary guy that will really, really help out your star, which is why I think he worked really well in Pittsburgh, kind of helping out Malkin there. But with Arizona, he doesn't really have that secondary guy. That guy could be Clayton Keller, but he hasn't really lived up to that quite yet, which he's still young, so he very well could, but he just hasn't quite gotten there yet. So with that, I'm just really not too sure about Arizona. They have a lot of cap issues as well, so they can't really add anyone. And basically all of their draft picks for this year are just gone because of a few reasons. And Hall didn't even stick around. And when Hall was there, he didn't really play that well. So last season, they just had really a ton of trouble. And I just really don't see them kind of improving this year. I do see them falling back a little bit. And then on to number 5, I have the LA Kings. Now, during last season, they kind of started picking up the pace a little bit as the season was coming to an end, or as it kind of did a hard stop, I should probably say. But they kind of started playing a little bit better. Now, I don't really think that's going to carry over into this season because it's been like 10 months since last season. But either way, I do think that kind of shows that maybe they do still have a little bit of fight in them and they could win a couple of games here, especially the division they're in. I do think this is the weakest division by a decent amount. And I do kind of see them kind of playing well against the other two California teams. And that's kind of why I have them at 5th place here, is kind of mostly those games against the California teams and Arizona. That's why I kind of have them up in 5th place. And if their young players can play really well, maybe they can sneak into a playoff spot, but I have a hard time kind of seeing that. Although I do really like their goaltending of Quick and Peterson. I like those guys. I think they're pretty good. I mean, Quick is getting older and he's not really as great, but Peterson's still young and still really good. So if their goaltending can kind of hold up, maybe they can sneak into a playoff spot, but right now I just don't overly see it. So that's why I have them at 5. And then at 4th place in the division, I have Minnesota. And with Minnesota, I really just don't feel that strongly about them, I'll be honest with you. The only kind of reason I have them in 4th place here is just because the rest of the division is just not very good, in my opinion. Honestly, if Minnesota was in any other division, I don't see them making the playoffs. I do here, just because, like I said, that division is really, really weak, in my opinion. I don't really know about their center depth. I feel like it's not great. I was kind of looking at it, and I don't really see a huge number 1 center. I guess Johansson, I think, would be their number 1 center, and I'm not really too sure about that. Maybe Rossi can come in and kind of help that out, although I do believe he's out for a little bit here. I think he's out for week to week for an upper body injury, so hopefully he gets better and maybe he can make the team and help that center depth a little bit there. And I'm not really too sure about their goaltending either. They have Talbot and Stalock, and I just don't really know how I overly feel about that tandem. I think they're both decent backups. Their goaltending is kind of just iffy for me. It's not really super great. So either way, I just don't really think Minnesota's that strong of a team, I'll be honest with you. But like I said, with this division being so weak, I have them at 4th place. And then now on to number 3, I have the St. Louis Blues. And honestly, this is where like the line is. Like there's like a hard line for me where you have the teams that are like not really that great or just middling and kind of bad. And then the teams that are really, really good. And those top 3 teams in this division are extremely good in my opinion. You have the St. Louis Blues at number 3. That's where I'm going to be having them. Like I said, I think they're a really, really good team, but they're just not as strong, I don't think, as the other 2 in the division. They lost Pietrangelo, which is a pretty huge loss, although they did add Krug to try and replace him. I don't think that is a replacement. I don't really think you can replace Pietrangelo, but I think they did the best of what they could. But losing Pietrangelo and losing your captain is a pretty big hit. And they also did lose Allen as well, which I do think it's going to hurt them quite a bit. I'm not really too familiar with their backup though now. I'll be honest, I haven't really heard a lot about Husso, so I don't know how good he is or how good he's expected to be. So we'll kind of have to see how their goaltending situation is. Binnington is still kind of young. He had a really good first year, obviously, but his second year was a little bit of a down year. So I'm interested to see if he has a bounce back season this year. And like I said with Husso, don't really know a whole lot about him. So I'm going to be interested to see with that goaltending situation, kind of how it works out there. And then you also have the Tarasenko injury, which, I mean, he's been injured before, so the Blues can kind of absorb that loss a little bit, especially with the addition of Hoffman. That's a really good add to try and help replace or at least kind of lessen the impact of losing Tarasenko, although I don't know how long Tarasenko is going to be out for. I think I read that he's going to be reevaluated in February, so we'll see how long Tarasenko is going to be out for. But either way, I still think they're a really strong team, so that's why I got them at number 3. And then at number 2, I'm going to be having the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, the reason I have them at number 2 and not number 1 is I'm just kind of interested to see how well they gel this year. And that's kind of the thing that I find weird with Vegas is I find that they seem to go through players like a lot. Like they'll bring a guy in and sign him to a decent contract and then they'll just move him. And I feel like they kind of have done that for like a couple of players here in the past few years. And it's just really interesting. It's just different to see because I feel like most other teams don't really do that, or at least not as hard as Vegas does. And maybe that's just because of Vegas is such a young team that's why I kind of feel that way, or at least think that way. But either way, they seem to go through players a lot, and it's just kind of very interesting to see. But the additions they add are pretty big. I mean, they did add Pietrangelo, which is a massive add, although they did lose, like I said, Stastny and Schmidt off their lineup, which is pretty big losses as well. So I do think the addition of Pietrangelo is better than the loss of Schmidt. I don't know if it's better than the loss of Schmidt and Stastny, though. So we'll just kind of have to see how well they do. Although I do really like their goaltending tandem of Leonard and Fleury. I think that's a really, really good tandem. It's probably one of the best in the league, in my opinion, or it's definitely high up there. So I do think they're going to be a really, really strong team. Like I said, it's just kind of like that chemistry that I'm kind of interested about. If they have good chemistry, then I'm sure they'll do really, really well. Once again, I see them having another strong season. And then finally, at number 1, we have basically the cup favorites for pretty much everyone, the Colorado Avalanche. Now, really, what is there to say about the Avalanche? They're just a very, very strong team. They're a very good team. I mean, that first line is just absolutely insane with McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen. And then the addition of Kadri last year was really, really important in kind of stabilizing that second line as well and having that second line center. Kadri is an amazing player, and I really do miss him in Toronto. I am still a little upset that we traded him in a way. And they still have some young players coming in as well. I mean, they have Makar, who's fantastic last year, and I'm interested to see if Byram kind of makes the lineup as well. He may or may not. I'm not really too sure if they're trying to see if he'll make the lineup. I don't really know too much about that, but either way, they're a super strong team. And the kind of weird thing about the Avalanche is whenever I think of Francouz and Grubauer, they're two goaltenders. For some reason, I don't really think of them as that strong of a tandem, but they've been really good the past few years. So I don't really know why I think that way, but I just kind of do. I just don't really think of them as the top tier goaltenders, but they really kind of are. So they are just a really, really strong team. Their really main downfall, their only downfall last year, was how many injuries they had, not only just in the regular season, but in the playoffs as well. They were down to their third string goaltender, and they still almost won that series. So for me, I do have the Colorado Avalanche finishing in first place. Now for my cup predictions, I don't know if I really want to do one cup prediction. I'm kind of going to do three. I'm going to have the team who I actually think is going to win the cup. I have the team who I want to win the cup the most. And then I'm going to have a team where I think it's like the hottest take of who would win the Stanley Cup. So those are the three that I'm going to do. So the first one, who I actually think is going to win the Stanley Cup, for me, I kind of see Vegas winning it this year. I just really do think they are that good of a team. Like I said, it is kind of mostly reliant on their chemistry. If they have good chemistry, I do think they're going to win it. So that's kind of who I think is going to win it this year, although it is going to be very close between, honestly, the three kind of top three teams that I'm thinking of is Colorado, Vegas, and Tampa. It's kind of those three that I really think are actually going to win the cup. But either way, my second one, who I actually want to win the cup, obviously it's the Leafs. It's my favorite team. Of course, I'm going to have them wanting to win the cup. And then my third one, my kind of hot take, is I'm going to have the Carolina Hurricanes. I think they're a very, very strong team. Like I said, it's mostly that goaltending that I'm really just not too sure about. But if their goaltending can get hot, I do think they could win the cup. So I think that's a hot take, or at least maybe that's just a hot take in my opinion. But either way, those are my predictions. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, make sure to leave a like and make sure to subscribe for more hockey content. Hockey's finally back, so I'm excited to do more kind of hockey content here on the channel, as well as still doing jersey content as well. But also make sure to follow me on my Instagram and my Twitter at TheJerseyZoneYT on Instagram and at TheJerseyZone on Twitter. Links are in the description down below. Like I said, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.